Hey everybody, and on today's vlog, Coozies Games presents By the Vote. Win the presidency in 15 minutes.
By the Vote is an incredibly fun, strategic, and competitive, yet simple to learn game where you outbid your opponents for 51 states' electoral votes in order to win the nomination for President of the United States. Strategically use your money in each round's secret bidding turn to outbid your opponents, but watch out for golden swing state cards that can really alter the game. After 8 rounds, or when the time's up, the candidate with the most electoral votes becomes your party's nominee. If you and the second highest candidate collect 270 or more electoral votes, the two of you become President and Vice President of the United States. All in just 15 minutes.
Hey sir, how's it going?
I'm well.
So what are we going to be playing today on our vlog?
Today we're going to be playing By the Vote from Coozies Games. They sent us this copy. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
It is a 2 to 5 player bidding game in which players are candidates for the presidency, and we are running a presidential race to try to become the President of the United States. It is not politically
Doesn't have like political affiliations.
right, yeah, which I'm really glad of, because I was kind of hesitant when they wanted to send us this one. I'm apolitical, so I don't have any sort of political affiliation, and I'm very, very cagey about politics in general. I really hate politics, discussions of politics, so on and so forth. Like, just anything to do with politics makes me very unhappy very quickly. So I was a little bit hesitant to try this one because of my affiliations, or lack thereof. But there hasn't been anything that I've found thus far that has made me uncomfortable in this game. So let's just get that off the bat, right out of the gate. Wow, okay. Anyway, see, I didn't even talk about politics and I'm already like, ah. So let's talk a little bit about how the game actually plays. In the game, players each have a voting booth or a player screen, which is going to keep all of our sort of stuff hidden when we are making bids. And we're going to make those bids on this sort of dashboard right here. We also get to keep our money behind our screen so that players don't quite know how much money we have, although we will be moving the screens away from our stuff throughout the game. So if players are shrewd, they can maybe pick up on what you have behind your screens, because we will have to occasionally move those out of the way. But this is what we have behind our screens. This player board here is going to facilitate all of the bidding in the game. There are 8 rounds in the game, and you'll notice that each of these sort of sections of the board show areas that we're going to play during each round. So for example, this is round 1, states 1, 2, and 3. Round 2 covers states 1 through 3 plus state 4. Round 3 covers all the previous states plus 5, and so on. This is also going to show us when we get influxes of money. At the start of the game, we get $10 million. We don't get any more money, though, until round 4, at which point we'll get $20 million plus $2 million for each state we've managed to collect the votes from at that point. And then we'll get more money again at the start of round 7. We'll get $30 million plus $2 million for each state that we've collected the votes for at that point. Now what happens is, at the beginning of each round of the game, we'll lay out state cards based on how many states are available for that round. So for example, round 1, we have 3 states available. So we're going to put the cards out like this. Now what's going to happen is each player behind their player screen is going to secretly bid on any of the states that they're interested in. So if I really wanted Minnesota here with 10 electoral votes, then I would put money on state 1. And if at the end of the round I had more money on state 1 than any other player, I would get to collect this card. So players are going to secretly bid on all of the states available. You don't have to bid on a state if you don't want to. And that may be advantageous because, like I said, we're only going to get money at strategic points in the game. So while I may really want to bid on these cards or bid very high, this is all the money I have for several rounds, and I need to make it last as long as I can. So what's going to happen is at the start of a round, players are going to secretly bid on the states that they want to collect. When every player is ready, we're going to remove our voting booths and sort of reveal what we've bid. Players who bid the highest pick up the cards from that state. Players who tied or did not bid the highest don't get the cards, and every player has to put all of their money back in the supply. So even if you don't win the bid, then you're still going to lose your money. It's kind of like the money was spent campaigning in that state, and even if you didn't win the votes for that state, you still spent the money campaigning there. So once all of the states have been picked up, we'll sort of reset for the next round. So in this case here, let's pretend that these two were picked up and this one wasn't. We would add new cards based on the round, right? So this is going to be round 2. We have 4 states available to us. Players would again put their stuff behind their player screens and secretly bid on the states that they want. And we would just continue to do this as we play through each of the subsequent rounds. Now, if a state has more than one card available, like for example in this one here where there are 2 cards available, then the player who wins that state gets all of those votes. Additionally, there are cards in 3 different colors, right? We've got blue, red, and yellow cards. Now the blue and the red is just sort of a stylistic choice that sort of shows the idea of 2 different parties, right? But the yellow are swing states. Now these are states that could go in either direction, red or blue. And these are basically going to allow players to steal cards from other players. So the way that this works is when you acquire new cards, let's pretend that I acquired these in a previous round. When you acquire new cards, you're going to place them underneath your player mat over here along this sort of tracker. And as you play, more and more cards will be added to this. You always have to add cards that you received that round immediately. However, you can add them in any order you want. So if, for example, I won these 2 this round, then I could put these in either order I wanted. I could put the blue one first and then the red one, or the red one first and then the blue one. The reason that this is important is because players who pick up yellow cards get to steal the card that is rightmost from any other player. Now, again, we do have to move our screens away sometimes, so you may have a good idea of who has a card that you might want to steal, right? Like I have an 8, that's not that great, but if I didn't have the 8, I have 55, which is a lot of electoral votes, and that would be a good target for theft. So that's how the yellow cards work, the swing states. They let you steal from other players. What's going to happen is we will play the 8 rounds of the game, and we are going to play for as long as we can within a 15-minute time frame. So at the start of the game, we start a 15-minute timer, and we are either going to play until that timer runs out or until we run out of cards and finish that round. If we run out of cards and finish the current round before the 15-minute timer ends, the game is over. If, however, the 15-minute timer ends before we're finished with the game, we're just going to immediately stop. We don't get to conclude that round. It's sort of like time's up, the races are over, it's time for people to cast their votes, and whoever has the most electoral votes at that point is going to win. Now, the way that the sort of end game works is that the players tabulate all of the electoral votes that they've accumulated throughout the game, and the player with the highest total number wins the game. The player with the second highest total number and the player with the first highest number are going to add together their votes. So the first and second place players add together the total number of all their electoral votes. And if they have 270 or more electoral votes, then they win the presidency and the vice presidency. And that's just sort of a bit of flavor. It doesn't really much matter, right? It's still the first and second place winners. But that kind of closes out the sort of theme of the game, right? Like if they won enough electoral votes, then they win the presidency. And so that is by the vote. It plays in 15 minutes or less, and it is a not quite chaotic, but it's definitely a sort of rushed,
definitely moving, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely sort of a rushed bidding game. We've played a practice game or two before the filming, and like I said, I really pleased to see that there's not like any sort of like real political affiliation to it. That could have really colored this negatively for me, but there's not, as far as I can tell. And the mechanics of the game themselves are very well suited to the theme. And it was more fun than I anticipated for being sort of a politically themed game. But let's get into it, and when we get to the halfway point, I guess we're going to have to pause our 15-minute
timer. You normally can't pause the timer, but we're going to pause it and just come in, do a midway.
A little bit about how things are going, and then we'll come in again at the end and let you know what we thought about it.
And who is the winner and loser. All right, well, until then, we will talk to you guys in a sec. Toodle! Hello, Sarah.
I'm stressed.
Oh my gosh. Why, you chugging coffee, all the caffeine pills to keep you awake and keep going through all these campaigning?
So we are just about to start on our 7th round. There's the 7th round and then the 8th round, but we're approximately halfway through our 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So
normally you don't stop the timer within the game, but we just did it to
hit
show you
quick.
what was going on.
Yeah. So right now, Nick has got his screen off so that you can kind of see his. I am not going to show you mine. So all of the cards that he has so sloppily spread out there across the electoral vote ruler.
I'm sorry, the votes are just coming in and they're just showering me with praise.
That's not what's up.
I hope. No, gosh.
So what's happening there is he's got all his votes spread out across his sort of vote ruler there. And each of those numbers is the number of electoral votes that state is worth. I think he's probably doing better than I am. I have a couple of high ones, but I don't really have tons and tons. But we just got a big, huge cash influx. We got $30 million, plus we got $2 million for every state we had accumulated up to that point. So Nick got a bigger cash influx than I did because he has more states than I do, I think. But we still got a big cash influx, and that's going to help going into like the late stages of the race. Like I said, there are 2 rounds left after this, round 7 and round 8. And then at the end of round 8, that is the end of the game. We have, I think, like 6.5 or 7 minutes left on our timer. So if we can get through the next 2 rounds.
We're also moving pretty quick.
We are.
And since this isn't our first rodeo, we're moving with a good understanding of the game.
Yeah. It sounded a little complicated, I think, when I explained it at the beginning of this video, but it's a pretty simple game and it moves very, very quickly, not just because of the 15-minute timer, but just because it moves pretty smoothly.
Yeah.
So we're heading into sort of the final stages of the race, and there is quite a bit of electoral votes up for grabs.
We tied a lot more this game than our previous games.
Yes, we did. And I think that the game's only 15 minutes long, no matter what. So at most, you're going to spend 15 minutes to play this game. I really recommend a practice round or practice game, just because there is that timed nature. The first game, you're really just kind of stumbling through, even if you fully understand everything. Like even in this game, I realized that I was being a lot more efficient with how I was laying things out when we were preparing for like the next round and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that was just because I knew what to expect. So I would definitely recommend a practice game, just so everybody kind of knows exactly what to expect.
You wouldn't even have to finish it, just get an understanding of it, because
Yeah.
once you go through a couple rounds or a couple turns or in the game.
I would say go maybe through like the midpoint or end of round 4.
Yeah, go at
because-
least to where you start getting some more money again.
Yeah.
And you can kind of understand how that feels. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I got a lot of little ones, but
But
then it gave me
plays
money.
so quickly that, I mean, even if you wanted to just finish your practice game, you
Yeah.
certainly could.
Definitely.
So we are going to go ahead and finish this game. We have 6.5 minutes left on our timer. 2 rounds left. No more money is going to come in for the rest of the game. Would you like to give us an approximation of how many electoral votes you think you have right now, Nick? I
got many.
I have over 100.
I think that's
But-
where I might be.
Yeah, I can see from here you've got
cat
a
is-
lot more cards than I do.
The cat is running my election, so our cat is probably
He does have a little bow tie, but he refuses to wear it.
he'll fight me if I try to put it on him. All right, well we'll get back into it and finish this game out and see who wins, and also
Who goes home crying.
who goes home crying too. So, well, we'll get back to you guys in a little bit. All right, toodles. Hey, sir, how's it going?
I'm okay, I guess.
What happened?
I've had to make my concession speech, but I was offered a VP slot, so I guess that's not nothing.
Woot woot.
So the game is over. We made it through all 8 rounds with 1 minute and 26 seconds to spare. And when we tabulated our votes, I had 199 electoral votes. Nick had well over 200. But together we had at least 270. So we are going to be the president and vice president respectively. And
Board games for all.
and Nick
National Board Game Day.
Nick is our winner. It sounds like he's got some good plans for the country too. So we have finished our game of By the Vote. What did you think, Nick?
I liked it. It was a little quick bidding game, and the 15 minutes where it's, I don't like being constricted to a time limit and being forced to move, but that, kind of helps with sometimes my analysis paralysis and trying to like overcomplicate and overthink the game, but it just allows me to kind of go. And it also lets me to venture into new kind of strategies where I can, put them to practice in a game that forces me to continuously to move.
I really like it a lot more than I expected to. The gameplay is, it feels unique and interesting. It was fun. It's stressful, especially because of the time limit, but in a good way, if that makes sense. And I feel like the theme, while it would normally be something that would really turn me off, I feel like they managed to incorporate the theme into the mechanics in a way that really draws you in and isn't unpleasant, which is really, really nice.
Yeah.
So
even the winner and the second place, so then if you have enough points and all of a sudden, oh look, you're the VP and president now.
And I really like the fact that like the time limit is stressful, and at first I wasn't really sure that I like appreciated that sort of mechanic of the game, but it really makes sense that it is a race, right? It's called a presidential race. It's a race. There is a limited amount of time that we have to influence the states to vote for us, and I think that the time limit really added to the general feeling of the race itself, and then also of like, I feel like this could really become a game where players might suffer from AP, where you're running these calculations where you're like, okay, well, state 7 currently has 16 electoral votes and state 9 has 14, so what is the median average of value for one vote kind of thing? And I think you could really get down at like a mathematical rabbit
And also
hole.
if you're trying to pay attention to the other players and trying to keep track of what they're doing, I think the time limit is just kind of like you just gotta go.
Exactly. And I think that really helps the game to maintain a really decent flow. It adds to the overall sort of fun that you can have in the game, because players can't get caught up in AP really, or they're gonna suffer. So I think to me it increases the fun to have the timer. It does definitely increase the stress, but like I said, I feel like it's almost sort of a positive stress.
Yeah.
All the components are really nice. It does say on the box that this is the limited special edition. I'm not really sure what that means as far as like the components that we see here. I don't know what the difference is between the limited special edition and like a regular edition of the game. But there is gold foil on the box, so I assume that that's probably part of the limited special edition. Past that, I don't really know what the difference is between the components for this and the regular version. But everything in this version is very nice. All the cards are good quality. The card stock is nice and thick. There's plenty of money. Everything works the way it should. There's nothing where it's like, oh, if they would have done this differently or had this be different, then it would have been better. There's nothing like that. I think all the components
even
work
the
well.
player screens. Because sometimes in other games there are plastic ones that you have to continuously bend.
Yeah, or like they're like this like laminated paper. These are actually like nice cardboard ones.
And although you still have to be careful with the edging because it's cut, you don't want to rip it. But I find it easier to manipulate than the other ones, because other ones it seemed like
the dashboards are thick too. Like they didn't have to be. They could have just given us like paper dashboards, and they didn't. So it's a good quality. It was super easy to learn. Nick learned it and then taught it to me, and he taught it to me in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we got to play a practice game, and within like a couple of rounds of playing our very first game, we knew pretty much exactly how the game was supposed to function and kind of what we were expected to do as players. So yeah, I think that it's really fun, and I think that if you enjoy bidding games, I think that if you enjoy doing sort of scoring math, if you don't mind doing that, there's sort of a lot of scoring math. Like I said, you can get into the weeds with like which one is better here kind of thing. But if you can quickly sort of add up, okay, over here, there are 3 cards and they're worth 16, 17, 27 votes. Like obviously that's better than 9, right? So you didn't even have to do the math to figure that one out. You'd say I'd rather take 2 than 3. So even if you don't want to really get into the math of it, but if you enjoy math, I think that you will enjoy mathing out some of the stuff in this game. And I think that if you enjoy sort of chaotic games that are still thought-based games, not necessarily like dexterity games that are chaotic, but like thought-based games that have a little bit of chaos to them, you will probably enjoy this one. I wouldn't let the theme put you off at all in any way. It doesn't matter what your political affiliations are, if you have any. This game is not offensive, as far as I can tell, in any way to any politically affiliated person.
But with that said, I would be careful with, who you bring this game to, because even if it doesn't have a political party or anything like that, you want to have fun at your game nights. You don't want to have to stir up anything or have someone say something off the cuff and then all of a sudden your game night's kind of a wrench was thrown in it. So just know your people when you go and play games like this, because even though the theme is like not hindering to the gameplay or anything like that, you don't want that individual that sometimes can't be quiet or can't just have fun.
And not to be preachy or anything, but I think one thing that's kind of frustrating to me about American politics is that we can't just all respect each other, right? Like you might have different views than me, and that's okay, and we don't need to argue about it or try to win someone over to our side.
Yeah.
So if you are going to play with people that will make this political, just be courteous, be kind. That's what we should be doing all of the time with everyone anyway, right?
Indeed.
So yeah.
All right, well, we hope you all enjoyed this vlog of By the Vote by Coozies Games. Coozies Games. But yeah, they appreciate them sending us this copy and letting us play it and talk about it. So yeah, until next time, we'll talk to you guys later. Toodles!